Don't hate the pink, because I'm a breast cancer survivor, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I went to school for TV production, and if you had told me when I actually grew up in New Hampshire, probably a few miles away from Kathy, if you had told me, oh, well, when you're in your 40s, you'll be a cancer advocate speaking in front of people in Washington, D.C., I would have said you're crazy, because I'm more of the wallflower type girl, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of shy, which, most of you who've met me today and this weekend are like, sure. But I went to school for TV production. I moved out to LA after I graduated college in 1993. Worked on a couple TV shows. I know everyone's favorite, Walker, Texas Ranger. Raise your hand. Right? Yeah. And a little hint, Chuck Norris is only this tall. I'm sorry if I spoiled the... He is. We actually had actors come in for casting, and they're like, yeah, I'm 6'3", and you just wanted to tell them, Chuck's gonna look like an Oompa Loompa if you tell people. Yeah. So I worked on Walker, Texas Ranger. I worked on Crossing Jordan, among other shows that you've probably never heard of. Moved to Michigan to be with my then boyfriend, now fiance. He had a medical issue. And California, as you know, it was getting a little crazy, a little too crazy. So I moved back there in 2004. Founded the only entertainment job in a town of 4,000 people, working on a radio station, which you've never heard of, but it's WMKT. It's in northern Michigan, and we're about 50 miles from the Mackinac Bridge, and then you hit Canada, And I was producing local sports. Detroit Tigers, Detroit Red Wings. Basically, I would make sure the spots would go on the air, and that was my job, just to sit there and basically be like, okay, it's the end of the inning, and then that was my job, and then that's what a producer does. I'm sorry. So in 2007, in August, I found a lump on my breast. I know you guys you can't be like, oh, my lung feels weird. I can't. But I went to the doctor, and of course, since I was young, they said, it's probably nothing. So we'll do a biopsy anyway. Now around this time, those of you who know me as a cancer warrior, I am a hockey player. I'm a hockey fan. And as part of the radio station, we get to go to Red Wings training camp, which is where they basically, it's for the fans, but they call it training camp. So they had this week long of training camp, and it was that time I was getting the biopsies and the mammograms and everything. And the last day of training camp, I had my biopsy on a Thursday, and I called them on Tuesday, and I was driving to the radio station, and the nurse answered the phone, and she's like, we don't have your test results just yet. I'm like, okay. 2 minutes later, the doctor called, and she's like, how soon can you get here? So we all know it wasn't for like, there's extra brownies from the daughter's bake sale. It's, it's cancer. So, and you'll understand why I'm explaining the hockey story in a minute. So after my course of treatment, it was a lumpectomy. I had chemo, radiation, my hair fell out, all the fun stuff that you guys went through, I'm sure. The producer of the talk show that I work on now, the Vic McCarty show, she had quit. And since there wasn't really anything I could do as far as after surgery, because they took out lymph nodes, they removed the lump, and I was just in a lot of pain. They're like, well, why don't you produce the show? Because, like I said, producer. There you go. And the other producer never really talked to him on the air. And as you can tell, you put a microphone in front of me, blah, blah, blah. So we had instant on-air chemistry, which is very rare in the entertainment business. So that was 2007, just a few months after my diagnosis. It took me about 6 months. For those of you who are newly diagnosed, I was just talking to somebody, sorry, I have chemo brain, I don't know who. It took me a long time. It took me about 6 months to actually talk about my cancer on the radio with Vic, who's the host. And I also really wanted to get the feelings out that I had, because living in a small town and not really knowing anybody my age who had breast cancer, I didn't really know who to talk to, and I didn't know about Facebook at the time. So I started blogging. And I never really thought that anyone would actually read it. It was just one of those things where like, I'll just start a blog and type it out, because I just actually didn't want to use up all that space on my computer to have all whatever. And my handwriting is terrible. I should have been a doctor, but a few months, I think it was like 3 or 6 months later, I got an email saying, it's like, "Dear Mel, we read your blog, and your blog was one of our favorite, breast cancer blogs on whatever it was." And I was like so excited. I was at work and I was jumping up and down, and I went to someone at work who had just started there, and I said, "I just got this award. I'm one of the top 10 blogs at the, in this group." And he's like, "Oh, okay." It's like, great. Does anyone out here blog at all? That's it? Okay. What? Eric, are you causing trouble back there? You're too old, okay. I think blogging has really helped me. Whether you just like post on Facebook, which obviously is not a blog, or put on Twitter, or just somewhere to get your feelings out. I think a blog is a good way to just get that out there if you don't have the resources, or maybe you're kind of too nervous to talk to a social worker or a therapist, because there's also that stigma. It's like, well, now I had cancer, now I gotta go talk to a therapist. What, am I crazy? And I did actually talk to a social worker after I was done, and I felt, for me, blogging helped me more than talking to this social worker. Now that's only for me. I always tell people, this is my experiences. If you need to talk to a social worker, do so. If you want to blog, do so. I'm not a doctor. I talk and I push buttons and I go like that. You want to take medical advice from me, that's for sure. I found that blogging was the best way to get my feelings out. And after a while, I was getting comments because I have a blog spot, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, I understand what you're going through." And it was just a godsend to know that I was not alone, that there were people all across the country, whether they were breast cancer survivors, lung cancer survivors, or just caregivers, who had the same feelings that I did. Because, as you know, being a cancer survivor can be very isolating. And talking to your caregiver, while I know that Cynthia said, "Oh, well, I'm the caregiver," it's not that easy to talk to your caregiver or your friends when you're feeling upset. I mean, I've battled depression. And I remember being really depressed one time, and I'm like, Doug, who's my fiance, I said, "I don't want to talk to him. He doesn't know what I'm going through, right?" I mean, you guys have all felt that, right? Like, you're like, and then if I go to work and I talk to Heather again, she's going to think, "Oh my God, there's Cancer Girl. She's talking to me again about this." Right? Come on. You've all like, that they don't feel that way, but I can't picture my friends going, "Here she comes. Don't let her come over here. She's going to talk about cancer." But we've all felt that way, and I feel that blogging has really helped me. And the other thing that I do with my blog is I accept guest blogs, because quite honestly, who wants to hear about me all the time? And I think there's a lot more people out there who have interesting perspectives, who don't necessarily have a blog. I always get like I'll ask Katie or somebody, be like, "Hey, would you like to write a guest blog?" They're like, "Well, what do I write about?" It's like, "Well, write about what you know." "Well, what if you don't like it?" "Well, is it your life? I mean, what am I going to go, 'Yeah, Katie, sorry, I didn't like how, what you were going through. Can we just cut that out?'" I don't usually edit anything unless there's, any profane, well, I have profane language in my, sometimes, because basically cancer fucking sucks, but, sorry, it's on tape. A lot of people have said, maybe you shouldn't do that, but, that's how you feel sometimes. You can't just say, "Well, oh, cancer, I don't really feel good about it right now." Let's be honest, we were talking about, who was I just talking to over there? See, chemo brain, she probably walked away. We were talking about how medications either make you not, there she is, right. Fresh lung cancer meat, fresh meat right there. We were talking about how certain medications either make you go to the bathroom or not, right? And you can't just like talk to other people about that who are not cancer survivors. You can't go like, man, I haven't taken a crap in 9 days. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Or your other friends are like, I haven't gotten out of the toilet in 3 days. What are you talking about? But you know, with blogging and Facebook and Twitter and everything, you can put that out there. You may not want to say it like that, although I would. But other people can understand that, yes, we all go through that, you know. And like we were talking about before, another funny story, people like at work, they're like, I don't want to go to the bathroom at work because that's kind of gross and it smells and everything. And I was like, look, when you don't take a shit for 9 days, it really doesn't matter after that, right? I'm getting crickets, so I don't know. Is there going to be a giant vaudeville hook that's going to? Uh-oh. So 2009, Katie's like, wrap it up. In 2009, oh, she's tweeting about it. The Cancer Warrior's talking about taking a shit. Hashtag Hope Summit. 2009, I started producing on Empower Radio. Now, when you do radio, when you listen to radio, none of the DJs actually pick the music. Okay, I'm sorry I spoiled. Like, it's not like WKRP. There's not like some cool DJ sitting somewhere. If you ever think about what your DJ looks like, think about that he's like fatter and older and ugly. Because I'm sorry, that's pretty much what most of the DJs are. Well, the people who pick the music are called consultants. And the consultant for the radio station that I work at, he started Empower Radio, which is an internet radio station. And in 2009, I was just producing other shows. There was not a show on cancer on Empower Radio. And we had to retool it because like the main show, the hosts got kind of too big for their britches, so we kind of had to, male, female, like boyfriend, girlfriend, don't have them as hosts on a show because that's not a good idea. So he came to me and he's like, you know, I've read your blog and it's really inspirational. I think we should do a show. And I looked at him and, you know, I'm the wacky sidekick on my talk show. I just kind of, you know, sit there and I say something silly and the host talks. And how many of you here have seen Wayne's World, the movie Wayne's World? Remember when Wayne leaves the TV studio and Garth's just there on camera? He's just like, hey everybody, how you doing? That's what I kind of felt like, oh my God, you want me to host a show like by myself and talk for a half hour? That's kind of crazy. But I knew at the time, at least I figured at the time, there weren't a lot of shows out there that focused on the positive aspects of cancer, like LUNGevity, the Hope Summit. So I figured I'd, you know, take that leap. And ironically, I told him on Good Friday that I was going to do it. And you know, I found organizations like LUNGevity through Facebook or Twitter, different survivors who have an inspiring story to tell. I won't have people on who just want to, I mean, cancer sucks. I battle depression. It's hard, but I would rather have somebody on who will make a difference in someone else's life, who they can even if they're not the same kind of cancer survivor, they can be like, oh, well, if they can do it, if they can do the bike ride, where's Kathy? Is Kathy Smith in here? Yeah, like she's doing a bike ride, 1,300-mile bike ride.
I'm not doing it, she will.
Well, okay, she's a...
I'm going to be involved in one coming up.
Okay.
I haven't committed to that.
Okay, well, she's a bike rider. She does a lot of bike riding. Now you're going to have to do it because I'm calling Ramsey and Laura later. I'm just kidding. But you know what I'm saying. If I had Kathy on the show, sorry, chemo brain, sorry. If I had Kathy on the show and you're a lung cancer survivor and you hear, oh my God, she bikes a lot. Well, why can't I do that? I can do that too. She's just, you know, I mean, you kind of have to put a face to the disease, I think. And if you see someone like Kathy, be like, well, if she can do it and she battled it and she's out there bike riding and doing what she wants to do, then why can't I, obviously with your doctor's supervision.
So today I've been called an element and now I'm the face of lung cancer.
Yeah. Whatever. What's wrong with being the face of lung cancer? Okay. It's better than elephant, isn't it? That's right, the ass of lung cancer, Kathy Smith. Hey, yeah, this was from Katie. Tweet that. Tweet that, Katie. So I found that, I basically think that coming from a small town in New Hampshire, probably about the same size as Kathy's, live free or die, baby. Doing this kind of thing and standing up here, like I said, if you had told me in high school that I would be standing up, talking to a bunch of survivors, or standing up in front of a group of people, I would have thought you're crazy. Because everything that I've done prior to this has always been behind the scenes, even kind of radio is behind the scenes. But when I was diagnosed, it kind of became my mission to help others. I mean, I've spent hours online trying to help people that I've never met in countries that I'll never visit. I've basically said, well, I'll do anything for a survivor except shave my head, because that was kind of traumatic for me. Because, I don't know, bald is beautiful, but I didn't think I was beautiful when I was bald. I don't know about you guys. So, how many of you got interviewed downstairs? Anyone? And how many are kind of thinking about it and they're not kind of sure? Okay. So, in addition to being a blogger, radio host, cancer survivor, the Cancer Warrior, I'm also like kind of a big media whore. And if there's anything that I can do to promote awareness, promote the cause, I'll do it. And on Facebook, a friend of mine said, oh, I'm producing this show for PBS. It's called A Wider World, and they're doing a segment on cancer. And it was in Ann Arbor, and it's 4 hours away, and I was just like, I'll do it, and it's a road trip with my friends. So I'm going to show you just a little clip, and this is pretty much, or can I? How do I get on the... I'm going to just show you, it's just about a 5-minute clip. So I'm basically saying if I can do it, oh, there we go, sweet. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I actually saw an old boss of mine at the grocery store, and it's like, oh yeah, I heard you had cancer. I was like, yeah. She's like, you're doing all right? Yeah. You're not gonna die, are you? I'm like, well, I was thinking, well, not right here, or not right now. I'm not planning on it.
Yes, you heard it correctly. In an effort to be supportive, this person actually said something truly ridiculous. Comments like this may be due to the fact that we're uncomfortable with serious illness, and many times the shock of hearing something so devastating makes us say strange things.
I had people who told me stories about cancer. I've had people tell me that breast cancer is the best cancer to get. Although, other people may say lymphoma is the best. I had an argument with somebody about that.
Let's be honest about this. There is no best cancer to get.
When people ask you what you can do for them and how they can help you, the one thing, I would treat people exactly the same as you would treat them before their disease, because everyone wants to know how you're feeling. And my God, I've had people ask me that like 10 times, like different people, and by the 10th time, you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about cancer anymore. Because when you're in treatment, or even just newly diagnosed, or right after, newly survivorship, I think that everyone's concerned about you and everyone worries about you, but you're not your disease. It's like, please tell me about that, you're having a fight with your boyfriend, or your car broke down, or tell me how your day is going, because, the last thing I want to talk about is cancer. And then, if I feel like bringing it up, I will bring it up.
Good point, Mel. Cancer has already changed our lives, and we think about it a lot. What we often need is a good distraction and normal conversation.
I think keep asking about like how you're doing, because I don't know, like if your car broke down, would you keep asking, oh, is your car out of the shop yet? Did you get it fixed? I mean, wouldn't that just annoy you? Like, I know people mean well, but like I said, I think treating people like they don't have a disease.
Absolutely.
If they're in treatment and you want to make them food, I would maybe talk to a dietitian to see what kind of food, because your lasagna, while it's really good, it may not be good for someone going through treatment, and you might not realize that. If you can help somebody maybe take care of their kids or walk their dog or even drive them to treatment if their caregiver or loved ones aren't going. Just not being alone during chemo or radiation is huge.
Here are a few more things to keep in mind when you're trying to be supportive. Don't say everything's going to be okay, because it minimizes the seriousness of what we're going through. Instead, you might say, what a lousy thing you're going through, but I'm going to do everything I can to help you through it. Don't say, I know how you feel, because you probably don't. Instead, you could let me know that you can't walk in my shoes, but that you'll always walk beside me. Don't say, keep a positive attitude and avoid stress. While that's generally good advice, it can add stress to someone who is already dealing with an awful lot. Instead, you could help me keep my spirits up by bringing over a movie and watching it with me. Don't ask, how did you get cancer? Did you smoke? We rarely know why we get cancer, and don't need to feel guilty that we did. Sometimes the best words are, I'm not sure what to say, but I love you no matter what, and sometimes no words are necessary when a simple hug will do.
And for the love of God, don't say, oh yeah, I had an aunt who had cancer and she died. The point of this is, like I said, if you had told me that I would be speaking, I mean, I am kind of a shy person, but when it comes to something I'm passionate about, I mean, I'll be out there all in your face. And talking about it, and like I said, putting a face to breast cancer, putting a face to cancer, it makes it more relatable, will make people understand. I mean, they may see Kathy and be like, well, I had no idea someone that young can get lung cancer. Well, of course they can, you know. It's like John Filbert said, you have lungs, you can get lung cancer, you know. All the things that I do with Empower Radio and the Cancer Warrior on my blog spot and Twitter and everything is all grassroots. The gentleman who runs Empower does not have any money to pay me, nor does he get any money. So all of the PR and marketing and everything is basically me sitting at home on my couch, on my computer, which my fiance calls the command center. So basically, if I can do it, anyone can. I mean, it just takes time. I mean, I know that we all sit at home, hanging out, watching TV. If you want to spend some time blogging, or even making video blogs, which are, I think they're called vlogs. Is that right? You know, you can help so many people. And I think one of the things that you kind of can do, which is kind of a trick if you have a blog, is they have the, I don't know what it's called, but at the end you can like put your little tags on it. I always tag Lance Armstrong, Live Strong, stuff like that, because when people do their search engines, those are some of the things that'll come up. I actually had a guest blogger, write about Steve Jobs battling pancreatic cancer. And for a while on Google, it was like the #1 hit. When you type in Steve Jobs cancer, that post was the first thing that came up. So, I mean, that was one way that, yes, that gentleman did a good job, but it was also another way for me to get my message out there. They might be like, oh, well, there's an interesting blog that I might want to read. Now, getting back to hockey, because I love hockey. Like I said, I was diagnosed in 2007 at Red Wings training camp. I thought I could play hockey that year. Right. Actually, the surgeon, when he said I had to have a Metaport put in, my first thought was, what, I can't play hockey for a year? Are you kidding me? And it's my favorite sport, and it's got me through a lot. And long story short, I watched the Red Wings play that whole season, and they won the Stanley Cup, which is the big award in hockey. And they hoisted the Stanley Cup banner one day to the year of my lumpectomy surgery. So if you can find something when you're going through diagnosis, through survivorship, find your bliss, find something that makes you happy. For me, it's hockey. Then I say do it. If it's blogging and helping others, and you know that's what I do all year round, as well as hockey, not as well as hockey, but that's what I do, then do it. I mean, I don't know what your bliss is. I don't know what that one thing is that makes you happy, but find it. If it's helping others, great. If you're not comfortable speaking about lung cancer, there's a whole bunch of other people in this room who will be your voice. And I mean, that's what I do. I speak for people who won't. I speak for people who can't. Whenever I do a walk or a blog or any kind of event, it's the people that I'll probably never meet. That's who I do this for. And can we get this face off the screen now? So, yeah, let's start the panel. We don't want to hear me talk anymore, do we? It's okay, you can say yes. That's all right.
Okay, so Mel is going to moderate this e-advocacy panel. It's about writing, blogging. Mel talked a lot about blogging and talking your way throughout the cancer journey. It's about building that virtual support circle, raising awareness through telling your story, and connecting with the media. And our panelists are Jamie Young. Jamie is a stage 3B lung cancer survivor, speaker, advocate, longevity event coordinator, and a lifeline mentor. Oh, and a member of the lung cancer support community. And Eric Byrne is also sitting on this panel. Thank you for stepping in today in Terry's absence, both of you. And Eric is an international lung cancer survivor, speaker, advocate, and a longevity lifeline mentor.
So we've already heard Eric's story. Why don't, Jamie, you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So I'm from right below Memphis, Tennessee. So it was kind of nice to see some other Memphians here and share their story as well. But my story began about 7 years ago. It was the fall of 2004, and at the time I was teaching middle school at an inner city school in Memphis, and specifically band. I was a band director. I noticed some symptoms that worried me, went to the doctor and went through the spill of, you probably have bronchitis, go home and take these antibiotics, and we went for about 4.5 months of that consistent cough going on, just fatigue. Being a band director and teaching middle school, I kind of attributed that tiredness to just, teaching middle school and having a 2-year-old son. So I didn't really think it was anything serious. And then the weight loss, that was actually kind of cool because I was trying to diet. So I was like, yes, I finally found a diet that's working. And the South Beach guy was my hero. But after a few months of those antibiotics, I went back and they did an X-ray and it showed the mass in my lungs. So from there, I went to a pulmonologist who then set up a series of tests and bronchoscopies and weighing needle biopsy, mediastinoscopy, and then I guess it was about a couple of weeks after the last test, I was sitting in a chair at home and watching my little son just run around acting crazy, and I get this phone call from the pulmonologist, and initially he had told me that what I probably had was sarcoidosis based on my age and my history, and that lung cancer was at the bottom of the list, not to worry, that's not what it was. But the phone call, unfortunately, he told me that it was lung cancer, and I remember thinking at that time that, oh my gosh, my life is over. That's it. If I take one more breath, it's the last one. As my child is running back and forth in the living room, screaming to the top of his lungs, playing. So it was a very scary situation. And my husband and I talked about it. And we were like, okay, we need to go out tonight and discuss, what we're going to do. So we went to Chuck E. Cheese because we knew that if we went there, my son, he would play and have a good time, and we can kind of discuss what we were going to do. And the next step was I went to MD Anderson to get a second opinion. I ended up getting treatment at West Clinic in Memphis under a wonderful doctor, Dr. Polera, who was actually 2 years younger than me, which was kind of scary too, but he was a really smart guy, and I was really proud to have him as a doctor. Throughout this whole time, like I was saying, when I was initially diagnosed, I felt very hopeless. I didn't know anybody that had been through what I was going through that was my age, that had a toddler running around. And I was scared because the thought of not being able to watch this child grow up was just devastating to me. So we wanted to do everything we could to, get rid of this cancer. And unfortunately, being at stage 3B, surgery was not an option. So we were really scared. But we told the doctor, we want you to be as aggressive as you can. So I ended up having about 37 radiation treatments combined with chemo. It was cisplatin and etoposide, and then followed by Taxotere. And it was rough. It was really hard. At about the second month into treatment, I had to get a feeding tube because the radiation had burned so badly, and of course, a port, and I still have that, which is really kind of neat. I love telling my students now, look at this. Do you know what this is? And they're like, oh, Michelle, that's gross. But of course, they think everything, from an adult is gross. But so, it's been quite a journey. I went into a depression after I was diagnosed originally, and my sister, who is a nurse, and she's pretty brash sometimes and very outspoken, and she finally came to me one day and she was like, Jamie, you've got to get up and do something. You're just melting away here in this, depression and feeling sorry for yourself. And I'm like, well, I want to have a pity party. She's like, look, you're not going to die today. You're probably not going to die tomorrow, but you might as well live this moment like it's your last. And I've kind of started thinking about it. I'm like, you're right. You're right. So at that point, I don't know, it just turned everything around. It's funny how sisters can do that. But I never looked back. And then from that point on, I just kept looking forward. And at that point in my life, I decided that it was very important to me to focus my energy on trying to help other people that were dealing with the disease. And then I came across, at the time it was lchelp.org, and that was Katie's, the online support group. And I was like, wow, there are people out there that are dealing with the same thing that I'm dealing with. There was no local support in Memphis, which, I consider a fairly large city. I was kind of surprised at that. There were support groups for women with cancer, but nothing specific. And so that support group online was just, it was a saving grace for me. It just really helped me get through everything that I was going through. Then I could go on and ask questions and get immediate answers from just multiples of people, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing for me. My husband started a Caring Bridge site because, with him being a teacher, having many students and many parents, and myself being a teacher and having many students, and then all of our family from all over the place, we felt that was necessary and essential to keeping everyone informed of what was going on, so we wouldn't get 500 phone calls every day. And that was one of the reasons he initially started it. It was kind of funny because, like, within the first couple of months, we had parents that were bringing dinners once a month, and we were trying to figure out how they were doing it, but they were communicating through there and through other sites and through people that were reading those posts as to when they can do it and set it up. It was really neat, and I'll talk more about that later. But
Jamie, do you find that when you posted on your Caring Bridge, like even then and now, that other people responded besides your friends and family, but other lung cancer survivors?
Well, not even just lung cancer survivors, but there were people from, Australia that were posting on my site saying, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking about you, we've got you in our thoughts, and it was really empowering. And I anxiously awaited each new day to find out who was posting today, or who was writing to me, or who was, involved in what was going on in our lives. It was just really, it just gave us a lot of strength and hope, knowing that we weren't the only ones out there, and there were people that were praying for us and that, were there for us if we needed them. So that was pretty empowering.
Since I don't know, because I have a blog spot, what's the difference between just a regular blog and Caring Bridge?
I think maybe with what you were talking about with the blogging is that you can target specific, like when a post comes up or you're searching for something, your blog can come up because you've targeted Livestrong or you've targeted this. Mm-hmm. With Caring Bridge, it was more of, it's more like journal entries. So I'm giving these journal entries, and then they can, whoever is part of your journal, or on that website, they can key into what you've written and then post responses about it. It's funny, when I was in treatment, you get all this heavy-duty medication, and there was a time where I was taking morphine, and I told John that I was going to write a book called The Morphine Analogies, because I would have the most vivid dreams and, things. He's like, are you crazy? I'm like, probably, but I'll be even crazier after taking this medication again. But so he had to erase some of those entries that I put in there because they made no sense whatsoever. But it's just part of growing, I guess. But through survivorship and advocacy, it became very important to me to help others that were dealing with the disease. And I sought out different foundations to try to find one that kind of fell within what I was looking for and to try to help. And I found LUNGevity because their focus at that time was solely on research, and I felt like there was such a need for that based on what I'd read and searched online. I just didn't feel like there was enough different treatment options out there for patients, and this was 7 years ago. The month that I was diagnosed, the month prior to my diagnosis, was the first month that Tarceva was actually an FDA-approved drug. So it had just come out, and I started taking Tarceva after my final round of chemo, and I've been on Tarceva now for 6.5 years. But it changed a lot. I think it's really been made a profound statement in my life because it's given me opportunities to advocate and get the word out and educate and do things for not only the Memphis community but nationally and for people that need to hear those stories. They need to hear those success stories, that there are people surviving and there are people thriving, and they have a good quality of life. So it's in all it's been a great blessing to me. I've been able to do a few fundraisers, and one of my biggest goals with doing the fundraisers was that since I'm able to be around young people, I'm thinking, okay, well, one day these young people are going to be grown-ups, and I want these young people to know that, okay, maybe if they decide to go into a field of research, maybe it'll be lung cancer, because I knew there was also a shortage of researchers that are in lung cancer. So I've really focused on, making that connection with my students. And just recently, and I was really excited about this, I had a 7th grader who took his ACT about 3 months ago and made a 27 on it. A 30, and if you know what that's pretty high. I mean, I made like a 21 when I graduated high school, but and he wants to be a cancer researcher, So, you just kind of plant that seed in these young people in hopes that when they're adults that they'll come back and do something. So that was kind of my mission. One of my missions with Playing for a Cure, it was a band contest. And then, other doors kind of opened, and I just embraced every moment that I was given, every opportunity.
What other doors, like for social media-wise, what other doors open for you?
Well, I've done quite a few TV interviews, newspaper articles. I had the opportunity to be in Self Magazine, Woman's World. So just, and a lot of it was through, Tarceva and being, and advocating for this drug also because it's done really well for me. But in the process, it opened doors to be an advocate for lung cancer survivors too. So, it's just any opportunity I had to speak my voice, share my story, I jumped at it. So.
Exactly, and you're doing, like I said, if people are afraid to do so, you're out there doing it. Now, Eric, tell me about being a LUNGevity Lifeline mentor, because
Could you repeat that, please?
You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, these accents here, they're
What?
so strange.
I said, since I don't know, what is a LUNGevity Lifeline mentor, and what has it done for you, and how have you helped other people?
I think there's two aspects to the moderator role I have in the LUNGevity lung cancer group. First of all, the principal idea is that when someone is newly discovered to have lung cancer, the high state of anxiety, and quite often they're looking for some kind of support and come onto the site. So I'm always looking daily at the site to see if there's any new arrivals, and we can give them some reassurance. And obviously, with view to what they've actually written, we respond accurately to what their anxieties are. And another side of the coin is the fun thing about being a lung cancer survivor, because I don't think we should give the downside of lung cancer too much room in our lives, and we should try and push it to one side and concentrate on the lighter moments to enjoy our daily lives, to smell the roses. So I like to do little stories about what's been going on in my life, or responding to someone else's story and what's going on in their life. So it's a lovely feeling to be able to be involved with people, both from their sad times, their down times, and also when they're happy.
Now, this is a question for either one of you. Besides LUNGevity, which we know is an awesome organization, what types of social media have you used to spread your word, Caring Bridge as well, to spread the word advocacy-wise? Have you used Facebook, Twitter? Is there some new thing that we don't know about that?
Well, in the United Kingdom, you've obviously heard me mentioning Roy Castle, but we also have another organisation called Cancer Buddies Network. They're an organisation that are entirely about social blogs. They don't get involved in any research or anything like that. It's just a group of friends who have a common enemy. They all suffer from cancer. The predominant population on the site is breast cancer and prostate cancer. We have a few lung cancer survivors there, and again, it's a snapshot of everyone's daily life, and it's just a friendly exchange. Wherever someone's got some concerns about up and coming treatments or some difficulties they're having, they've got a whole host of friends that can actually discuss their problems with them and give them some kind of support.
Jamie, do you find the same thing? Like, I know I've used Facebook a lot. Like I said, I didn't really know about Facebook or Twitter when I was going through treatment, but do you use that a lot when you're like now? You might ask a question and then bam, it's instantaneous, which is great.
Yeah, Facebook, I use that quite a bit. Twitter, also there's some other sites that I've frequented, like Crazy Sexy Cancer, because I
awesome.
like the juicing. Yeah, and Live Strong also has online support. I mean, they're different. I tried to reach out to any avenue I could just to get the word out. Say, hey, I'm here. If you need my help or you want support, please feel free to contact me. So yeah, any resource or site that I could go to just let them know that I'm here for them.
So has any survivor reached out to either one of you that you were really surprised that they, like you said, someone had contacted you from Australia?
Well, they weren't actually a survivor.
Oh, okay, but still.
Yeah, it is very surprising. You never know, who might be listening. You never know what your story, may do to change that person's life. And I mean, my goal was kind of, if I could make a positive influence in one person's life, it was all worth it.
Well, you are, obviously. Now tell me a little bit about like how you think social media has helped you. I mean, obviously we know Caring Bridge, but
Right.
If somebody just walks in here and says, I don't know anything about a computer, which, I don't know, maybe they curl that up for a rock or something, but a lot of people don't know about how to use these things and how to use Twitter and how to use Facebook or Caring Bridge. I mean, how has that empowered you as a survivor to help others?
One of the first things, like when I meet someone that's, diagnosed with the illness, the first thing I say is, okay, do you have any local support group? If not, and in most cases they don't, I say, okay, well, you need to go to this site, which is the LUNGevity support group, and then I'll also introduce them to the GRACE Index, which is by Dr. West, and I'd say, okay, whatever questions you have, just put them on there, see what kind of answers you get, because it's all, for me, it was about information. I wanted to be informed about what was going on with my cancer and what was going on in the world out there, and I felt like the GRACE site kept me informed in that respect, and then the LUNGevity site kept me in the know with all the other survivors, and also I was able to meet up with all of these people from all over the world. I mean, like, I'd never met Eric, but I mean, I've talked to him online, and then when you finally get to meet these people in real life,
You're disappointed, right? I'm just kidding.
I really thought my accent was going to be much better than his, but I do like his.
Eric, what about you? I mean, obviously it's different in the UK, and we heard your story a little bit before, but maybe you could expand on that. I mean, you must have like Facebook and Twitter, and I mean, how do you spread the word about different events? And I mean, besides LUNGevity, do you have any other websites or support groups online, or how do you grab people?
Yeah, well, I have mentioned that I'm a member of the Stockwell Hospital Lung Cancer Support Group. We've got about 16 members, and there's a feature getting into the evening times this week to highlight our activities again. It's a laudable organisation where we have guest speakers that come to help us. We have clinical trial nurses, research people. We have a whole host of nutritionists, and they come along and give us a little talk. We also have our own social things to do. We're organised, like going to Pantos, so there's a kind of lighter side to our side. I'm also a member of Team Inspire. It's very technical. It's a really heavy site, mostly people who are really focused on lung cancer. There's very little kind of social lighter moments in it. But I use all these sites. I don't use Twitter because I'm not that skilled. I don't know how to use it.
How can you talk in only 140 characters, Eric?
I've just missed out Twitter. It's
Really?
not one of these things that's managed to get into my circle. There's obviously a problem with our type of media, the computer and the laptop. Until about well, prior to my diagnosis, I had a couple of admin assistants at my work that I would write things out and pass them the material, and they would do all the computer stuff for me. I was always one to avoid the computer. It crept up on me. It became something I couldn't avoid. And I feel there's a generation gap between people my age and younger kids coming up. So there are people of my age who couldn't possibly use the networks that we frequently use, but I try to encourage people that there are ways to actually join in. They can go to the local library. All over Scotland we have libraries with a terminal or two where people can get and use free of charge. They can use the machines. They also have training facilities there where someone who's a bit rusty or a bit lacking in skills can go along and get some training in how to operate the machine. But it's not only the internet that we can communicate. We can communicate through our pamphlets we pass out. For example, we have a stall at the local hospital. When people are coming and going to the cancer clinic, the oncology, they pass our little stall, and we can pass out information leaflets that they can contact us if they've got any concerns and come along and join our particular little group. There only is 3 in the whole of Scotland lung cancer support groups, which I think is absolutely appalling, and it would be nice if we can roll out more of these types of support groups into local communities to try and engage with all these people who have no means of support.
I agree, for sure. And you're doing a good job with your leaflets. I mean, I know that there's groups that I never heard of until I went to my local, to my doctor's office and found like Immerman Angels, and I have no idea what that is, and I stuck it in my pocket. And then, I don't know if you know what Immerman Angels is. Does everyone know what that is? No? Johnny Immerman is a testicular cancer survivor, and he made it his mission that no cancer survivor would ever be without I don't know if it's called a cancer buddy. So he'll basically find somebody who has your type of cancer, so your lung cancer, anywhere in the world. He's met. Johnny uses it? Okay, very good. Johnny comes straight to you. So yeah, so anywhere in the world. I mean, he's matched people from the U.S. and China. I mean, obviously you may not be like close by, but if you have the internet or Skype or even the phone, you can find somebody who's close by and who's going through the same thing you are, and approximately the same age, I believe. That's what he does.
Right, so we are his lung cancer.
There we go. So you don't even need Johnny.
One more question,
Yes.
and we'll wrap it up for today.
Does anyone have any questions for? Wow, crickets. Okay. Well, what would you say to a new like I said, besides longevity, going to your doctor, getting those pamphlets, what is the best advice? Like your one, wow factor that you would give advice to like a lung cancer patient who's newly diagnosed, Jamie, if you have something,
Well,
social media wise.
in respect to education, we know that it takes a village to raise a child. In respect to going through cancer, it takes a village to defeat cancer and to win. So find your village. You need your support system, you need your caregivers, you need your doctors, you need the medical team, you need a whole lot of people in your life, you need your faith, you need a lot. So find that village.
Mm-hmm. Eric?
Ditto that.
Ditto that. Excellent. Thank you, everybody.